Welcome to Just Thinking. This is Mary Greendale. The title of this show grew out of a lifetime of curiosity about many different subjects. Some local, some global, and some in between. For each show, I will open with my thoughts and then bring on guests who explore the subject in greater detail. I hope the show inspires healthy discussions on camera and among viewers. To me, the sky's the limit when we are just thinking. Hi, this is Mary Greendale. Well, the town election is May 22nd. Most seats are unopposed, but there are a few contests. I will be interviewing candidates for any seat in which more than one candidate is running. I will ask the same questions of all candidates so that viewers can compare one to the other. I have found that this approach works better than a staged debate where people are so nervous we really can't get to know them at all. These interviews will be available at HCAT on television, on Facebook, and on YouTube. Today, I am interviewing Stephen Bigelow, who is running for Parks. Well, he'll be Park Commissioner on the Park Commission, and it's the Department of Parks and Recreation, so that we can be abundantly clear there. Hi, Stephen. How are you?
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Sure. Do you go by Steve or Stephen, or what do you?
Steve. Yeah, generally, yeah.
Okay, fine. We'll do that too. So just tell me a little bit about yourself so that folks know something of your background.
Sure. So my name is Steve Bigelow. I have been living in Holliston for 5 years. My wife, Amanda, grew up in Holliston. We moved back to the street that she grew up on, Briarcliff Lane. Some people in town might know her mother, my mother-in-law, Ellen Kirstein, who runs a preschool in town, Small Miracles Preschool. And so I have 2 kids. I have an 8-year-old daughter named Sadie, who's in 3rd grade, and a 5-year-old daughter named Louisa, who's in kindergarten. And they've come up going to Small Miracles Preschool across the street. And we've loved growing up and having our kids grow up in Holliston with the charm of the town. And I'm a public school teacher in Millis. I teach high school English. My wife also is a public school teacher, and we met teaching in the Boston Public Schools. And I've met a lot of great people through teaching, and ultimately it's led me to be where I am today, and just love what I do for work and love living in the town. And I've always wanted to get more involved. I try to get more involved in everything I do. I'm pretty deeply involved in my job, and so I'm looking to get more involved, and this is something that I feel where I can contribute to the town. So that's why I'm running for this position. Okay.
And why did you pick this specific board?
So my neighbor is Paul Healy. He's a current member of this committee. He is an incumbent. He's also running. And there are 2 seats available for this committee. And I would tell everybody to vote for Paul Healy. He's my neighbor, a genuinely good guy. He cares about this committee. I think he deserves everyone's vote. And I'm just asking that people consider me for their other vote. As my neighbor, Paul he's always talked to me about what's going on with the committee, and he knows that I love the outdoors. My kids have been involved in some of the programs. I'm involved in some, I use the parks and things like that. And as a lover of nature, he's always talked to me about, you should do it, you should run. And so it's been long in the works, and so now it's finally time. I think it's the right committee for me. Like I said, my kids have participated in some of the things. I use the town. We've used the town offerings in the parks, and I love the outdoors and I love nature. That's one of my passions in life. So I think I'm ready to do it. I'm excited to run, and I hope to be able to serve.
Sounds great. Sounds great. So how do you think your experience will specifically work within this committee?
So as a teacher, I think it lends experience to almost anything you do. You're working with people on a daily basis. I've served on numerous committees in Millis. I have throughout my career as a teacher.
Like what? Give us an example.
I'm the English department head at Millis High School. I've served as committee chairs on NEASC visits, which are sort of state-approved school approval visits. And so I've been in charge of various things through that. I've also served in town over the last few years I served on the task force with Brad Jackson, where we explored the idea of making tuition-free kindergarten. I coach youth sports in town. I've done that for a number of seasons. I play in the over 35 men's softball league. So I think just all of these sort of different dimensions to my life lead me to being well suited for this. And I like working with people, and I like, I like being involved, and I like appreciating what you have. And when I enjoy living here, and I want to continue to live in a place where I feel proud to be a citizen and continue to do what I can to make it better.
Let me say you're a pretty positive and upbeat guy, aren't you?
I like to think so.
Yeah, you really are. You are a breath of fresh air, I must say. Yeah, that's great. So is there something in particular that you'd like to accomplish in this first term? We'll say first term. So
I think first what I'd like to do is to just be a sincere member of the committee, and to first and foremost listen and learn from the people who are there, and to also listen to people in the community and to bring ideas openly and honestly, without any sort of personal agendas or anything like that. Just to be a sincere member of the committee, to support what's going on. I'd like to continue programs that we have. I think the challenge today is to continue to see participation rates full and improving, and keeping what we have, which is so nice, but continuing to further it and make it better.
Is there a program you think we're missing? Can you name one?
I would think, that's a hard question, actually.
Okay, so nothing that's just sort of sitting there saying, boy, that's a glaring...
No.
Yeah.
Okay. I see, in talking with Paul, too, Paul Healy, I know participation rates are good. I talk with some of my neighbors whose kids are, in second and third grade getting involved in field hockey programs, and I'm thinking, we have field hockey programs for second and third grade girls? Like, this is, I think it's, for a town our size, I think we're pretty diverse already. So I think, there's also a fine line between doing something and doing it well and then sort of spreading yourself too thin.
This is true. This is true. We have been talking with Parks and Rec about doing a kitchen up at, taking your kitchen that you have up there and incorporating some ability to do studio shots and so forth, and tape shows up there, present shows, so we can do cooking classes up there, so that you guys can do cooking classes that we then, broadcast.
Actually, I heard that because my neighbor Carol Hawley, I think I think she was talking about the garden club, maybe. They were looking for a kitchen, and her ears perked up when she heard that. Yep. Actually, I will add one other thing. One of the colleagues I work with at Millis High School is on the Parks Committee in Northborough, and he's served there for a number of years, and he was instrumental in getting a splash park brought to his town. And my kids actually have gone to that splash park. Yes. I mean, that's a very lofty goal, but I love that sort of idea, because I've taken my kids to that community to use that splash pad, and I know probably a lot of people have. Yep. And that is a lofty goal, and I'm not saying that's something that we would have to do, but it's just something that could be considered. It's an interesting idea. Well, and those kinds of things are generally in industrial parks, and there are places here that we have vacancies. So who knows? You might they often have high enough ceilings and stuff for that kind of thing. So who knows? Anyway, so do you have any particular worry about the park situation now? What would be your concerns? My greatest concern, and I think probably a lot of people share this, is I think we have beautiful parks. Is taking care of them and keeping them clean. And so what I guess I'm specifically saying is sort of trash, just general upkeep and cleanliness. When you have something that you're proud of, you want to show that pride and take care of those things. But I also see the parks, specifically the parks, as a place for kids and young adults to kind of go and be able to do the things that youth do in a safe, organized, maintained, and sort of supervised environment. So, I know it's been in the past. There have been issues, or there's been discussion on how late to keep lights on in parks and things like that. And growing up, not in Holliston, but in a community like Holliston, I remember being outside late at night with my friends, playing sports and things like that. And I just think opportunities like that are important for kids to get them outside, enjoying nature and the town, and in a positive way. And then also, while they're doing that, respecting the space, with any trash that's there. And so I'd say those are my biggest concerns, if there are any.
Okay, that's good. So in general, and I don't know how you'll respond to this, but I understand that you may not have a lot of thought about it, but do you think that the work of the committee is transparent to taxpayers? And where, unlike the school committee that gets a television show every week or every time it meets, or the selectmen that gets a show every time they meet, Parks and Recreation is a little less visible.
Sure.
So what do you think about that?
So my answer to that would be, my position on that is very unique because my neighbor is on the committee. So for me personally,
yeah. So we should all move next door to Paul Healy.
Right. For me personally, it's very transparent. But I would say for the average person in town, I think it probably is less visible. You're right. You can find meeting minutes online. If you're like me and you go to the town hall to drop off your water bill 4 times a year, they do have the bulletin board in there that does have things posted. I've seen things posted for the Parks Department there. But I think you're probably right that it is less visible than other departments in town. Now, I don't think that's done purposefully.
Right.
But you can find information. I think you just kind of have to maybe look a little bit harder.
So do you have any quick thought about how you might improve that? Any thought?
So I think just if there's ways to get information out to people, you have to use all sorts of modern innovations, technology. I'm personally not on Facebook, only because I'm a public school teacher and there's a little bit of a conflict of interest there for me. But I do see the value of Twitter, Facebook, things like that. In today's day and age, it's quick and it's accessible. So, to be honest, I'm actually not sure if the Parks Department has like a Twitter handle or something like that. But
I don't know either.
But that's actually a very simple and feasible way to quickly disseminate information to people in the community.
Okay. Is there anything that the committee should do to increase its visibility in the sense of like how your meetings are done, where your meetings are done, when your meetings are done? Have you thought anything about the real nuts and bolts, not just the programs and that kind of stuff, but the nuts and bolts of your operation? So
I've never gone to one of the Parks meetings. I'm going to the meeting next Wednesday or in 2 Wednesdays. And I think to be honest, without sounding like this is a cop-out answer, if elected, I would like to think that to give an honest answer to that, I would need to at least be a part of the committee and sit in on a meeting or 2 or 3 to see how things go, to see if anyone comes, to see how it's currently done before we could potentially look at, as a group, alternative avenues that could be more accessible and potentially shed more light on what's going on.
Interesting. Okay, good. Let's see, you may have already touched on this because of the way you answered your question, but the biggest challenge for the committee for this upcoming term, I mean, you did talk about challenges in general. Is there anything specific to this particular term? Is there something going on?
So I did sort of touch upon that, but as a citizen in town, I think like everybody else, I know that there's a lot of issues in the town not related to Parks Department, and having served on that committee for with Brad Jackson for tuition-free kindergarten, I learned a little bit about the school budget and the budget of the town, and I realized it's not a bottomless pit, and so I realized that money is tight, and there are other areas in town that are seeming to become more pressing in the eyes of the residents of town. So I think the biggest challenge is, sort of like I alluded to earlier, trying to keep the programs that you have with strong attendance and doing what you do and doing it well and continuing to just offer good programming to the youth and to the adults in town, and then also focusing on the parks and the land and the area that we do have, and just continuing to keep it clean and show it in its best light.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So you yourself, where do you get your news and information from about what's going on in Holliston, besides Paul Healy? Clearly, he feeds you a lot of information.
Yep, that's right, he does. So I think there's a variety of different places. So I told you earlier, I don't have Facebook, my wife does, so I get information through my wife through Facebook. But I also mentioned earlier, you can go to the town hall. I'm not there all the time. I mean, maybe a handful of times a year, but when I'm there, I do look at the bulletin boards, and there is information posted there. I find the town website fairly helpful. You can find meeting minutes there. I find other information there. You can find certain information, trash pickup, things like that. The recycling station, So I find that. I read the town paper. I watch the television. I watch your show.
Bonus points for this one.
Never miss it.
I miss it.
Huge fan. So those are the places I look, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I have not asked anybody the question about the terms this year because I found last year that it was really a very awkward question. People hadn't really, it was a tough one to answer. And in fact, if the voters get to decide in the end whether you're going to have first, second, thirds, or fourth terms. So anyway, all right. Well, Stephen, I wish you the best of luck going forward. Thank you very much for taking the time here. Thank you for watching Just Thinking, and please remember to vote on May 22nd. And please remember that the town meeting, not the town election, begins on May 7th. We need a quorum of 100 voters. One issue that looms large is the DPW's request for $8.375 million for a new treatment facility at well number 5 on Central Street. This question also appears on the town election ballot as a debt exclusion request. This means that we borrow the money, pay off the note, but do not increase our tax base under Prop 2.5. It is a once-and-done debt. It must pass the town election in order to move forward. Please participate in both town meeting and the town election. All right, thanks very much, and catch us next time.